I am Matthew Hammerschmidt. I'm holding here today one of the most important pieces of paper I've ever earned in life. Not only am I holding Matt today by my side, freedom is not free. This here stands for something. Make America great again. Stand for freedom. Continue to demand a recount, because making stuff here in the United States allows people like you and I to put food on our plates. Instead of having to live in a tent out in the middle of nowhere, scrounging around for bugs. It's been said that you're either voting for Trump or you're not. I've seen firsthand for a fact that this election has been rigged. I ask that every one of you stand beside me who care about the future of this country and demand a recount across the board. Joe Biden has no ability to form a sentence. That is a fact. He does have the ability to read aloud. He does have the ability to repeat things. And that's where I, as a YouTube content creator of a completely candid aspect of things, stand against people like that who go on scripts. It's all fake. They'll tell you, oh, you vote for me, we're going to make sure you have a Rolls Royce and a Lamborghini, when in reality, they're going to give you just enough economy to work with where you can only afford to live in the back of a Volkswagen Bug from 1972. I'll tell you a little bit about how I grew up. I grew up learning to drive a car. It was a 40-year-old crap box on wheels. When I was a teenager, when learning to drive, the Democrats were in office. The best I could afford was a 40-year-old Volkswagen. Didn't even run. No AC, no heat. I either had to move it around with the tractor on the farm, or I had to move it around with a team of horses on the farm. When I wasn't moving it around with a tractor or horses, I had to load it on a trailer and haul it around when I first got it. That's going to be the story of what it's going to be like under Biden's presidency. Until Kamala kills him. Then it's going to get worse. That's the truth of the matter. You might get really upset, but I'll be danged if I'm not going to be able to put fuel in my motorcycle. What that means to me, to put fuel in my motorcycle. The motorcycle that this key belongs to, I won't even be afford to drive. Because fuel is going to double in price. The last time a Democrat was in office, fuel prices were over $4 a gallon. As of right now, I don't know what fuel prices are doing. All I know is, according to the Electoral College, it's a race to 270, and Joe Biden currently is sitting at 284, and there's still votes left to count. The states of Washington, Oregon, California, and others put in their electoral college votes 15 minutes after the polls closed. Sad to say it, but we need to take this country back. Don't take away a young man's ability to afford to put fuel in his tank so he can go put bread on his table. I'm already struggling to afford the roof over my head as it is, under a Republican economy. You put a Democrat economy in place, no one's going to be affording the roof over their head. It's going to spell complete, utter disaster. And I do mean complete, utter disaster. Foreclosures are going to skyrocket like they did the last time a Democrat was in office. Our farm went under while a Democrat was in office. Our family no longer has a farm. I'm working to build my own farm. Literally from the ground up. I'm not poor. I'm broke. I'm rebuilding. Today, I stand here in front of the camera to ask of every one of you to stand beside me in demanding a proper count and proper election be done in the state of Washington, Oregon, and California before anyone wants to say no. Let me present to you the facts. You want socialism? I'll tell you right now, you won't be able to afford anything. People think that socialism is half of what's mine is yours. No, that's marriage, you moron. That's marriage. Don't get marriage with socialism and communism confused. In socialism, 90% of your earnings go to lining the wallets of people, force-feeding the ideologies down your throat. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality of things. If you have an income of $1,000 right now, your take-home will literally be $100 under communism or socialism for that matter. Don't ask me, though. Please don't ask me, though. Do some research. How is the economy in socialistic countries? How's the economy in communistic countries? Let's look at North Korea for a moment. They all wanted communism in North Korea. Back before it was North and South Korea, it was just Korea. They were battling to fight off commie people. They were battling to fight for their freedom. Let's not compromise. Our freedoms of being able to choose which grocery store we shop at, who we buy from, when we buy from, where we buy from, will end with the Democrats. That's the fact. Don't just take my word for it. Research my side of things. There's two sides to every story. I want you all to understand this. I just bought this year a Harley. This year I bought a Harley. I'm going to keep it. They'll be prying those handlebars out of my cold dead hands. Whilst I personally do not have guns, I stand to protect your gun rights. All of us Republicans do. The reason that a lot of shootings were so deadly when the Democrats were in office. I'm near a school right now. That school was the only school to have ever had an armed officer in the entire state of Washington the entire time a Democrat was in office. That's because we as a town are Republican. We're the only place that I know of that actually had a police officer in the schools protecting and defending children. Under Democrats, that doesn't happen. Criminals don't obey laws. They don't. They don't care about them. That's why they're criminals. They commit crimes. There's people being let out of jail right now because of they didn't commit nonviolent crime. They committed nonviolent crimes, and they're being let out so that people who committed violent crimes, like raping your wife at gunpoint, or someone who raped you at gunpoint, can go to jail. So what the Democrats have done is made it incredibly difficult for people who deserve to go to jail to be put in jail. Whilst people like myself go through months and months of meaningless investigations that mean nothing, that prove nothing other than how lunatic the other side is. I speak from experience on that. I came home one morning actually, after doing an all-night shift, digging out snow around fire hydrants, and shoveling grannies' walkways and shoveling out churches. To be thrown in cuffs in 6 months of my life, dragged through manure. That's too many syllables for most people to fathom. You know those turds in the toilet? Picture your name being dragged through those turds in the toilet. That's what it's really like. A gruesome graphic picture that still doesn't put it into appropriate perspective. Over 180 days of my life being stalked by the cops, being stalked by my brother-in-law, being stalked in general. Didn't end it in 6 months. It continues to this day. Where my family wants to stalk me because I know they're crazy. I have a lot of things to ask of people in general, and that is to think before you do things. Research the opposition. If this country just allows Joe Biden to go into office, even though we all know the Republicans won in the state of Washington, and don't even get me started on the voter fraud that's happened in Washington, Oregon, and California. The dead are getting the Democratic vote because the Democrats are stealing the lives of the dead. Your mother, your father, whoever has passed that you're near and dear to, have been voting Democrat against their own will. An absolutely disgusting, filthy method of winning an election. Horrendously fraudulent, slanderous, and even destructive to everyone's health. You can't get any lower than stealing from the dead. You can't. And that's what Democrats are doing, is stealing from the dead. I found out my mother and her parents voted Democrat this year. They've never voted Democrat before in their lives. Think about that. My mother, a God-sent angel of God from heaven, forced to vote in her grave for the same people that want to take your home from you. They want to take your car. They want to take your food from you. They want to starve you to death. Not only that, they want to take away your income. Folks, I will not allow this country to be stolen from our founding fathers, even if it's the last thing I do. This piece of paper is more than just a piece of paper. That's my way of life. We're talking farmers won't be able to afford farming anymore. You won't be able to eat. That's a fact. You want to know what it's like to go to bed hungry? Bull crap. You don't want to know it. I know it firsthand. I know what it's like to go to bed hungry, crying yourself to sleep because you can't afford the clothes that you need to replace. On this pair of pants, I have a torn out belt loop on the back. The bottoms of these pants are worn out. I can't even afford to replace them. I'm a tradesman. And a desk jock. And a priest. No one's going to be able to afford anything under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's economy. No one. Unless they are a Democrat. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where I ask you. I want you to text that Republican number demanding a recount in Washington, Oregon, and California. If you want what's best for your states, if you live in any of those 3 states, demand it. Democrats are demanding that the White House be turned back over to them so they could destroy your life. I'm not trying to feed you fear. I'm feeding you reality. I'm feeding you truth. I'm not a fear-mongering person. You want to be able to keep your home? Vote Republican and demand Republicans stay in office. Oh, wait, voting is closed. Demand a recount. Because I know for a fact all of Eastern Washington was all Republican vote. Aside from maybe 2 or 3% of the votes. Demand a recount. I don't mean to sound like Obama and his pass this bill speech. But you know what? That's the tactic that worked for the Democrats. That's what I'm doing. I'm using their own tactics against them. I ask very politely that you really consider this because I'm on the verge of homelessness, as it is. A democratic economy is going to be even worse, and they're going to play the blame game. They're going to blame it on the Republicans when really it's them that are doing it. Swallow your pride, stand up, keep your guns. Don't let anyone take them from you. Those are your guns. The Constitution gave you those guns. They gave you the right to those guns. The United States Constitution overrides your state's constitution. The Constitutions override the people in office. You cannot trust the government to protect your rights. You are the only one who can protect your own rights. You want to know what it's like to have such devastation to your life that even twice as long as it took for it to get down that low and things still ain't going very well, feel free to allow Biden to just take the office. But if you want to keep your freedom, demand a recount. This, ladies and gentlemen of the United States, concludes my entire video. I hope you learned something. I hope you realize what's at stake here is more than just the bread that goes on the table. It's the table that bread goes on. The home in which that table sits on that's at stake too. Wake up. This is reality. Drain the swamp. And make America great again. Because we will definitely continue to make America great. Thank you.